If your toddler melts down because their shirt feels wrong, covers their ears when the room gets loud, refuses certain food textures, or becomes wired and impossible to reach after watching videos, it is easy to treat each moment like random toddler behavior. Parents usually ask if their child is tired, hungry, dramatic, overstimulated, or just going through a phase. But a 2024 study in JAMA Pediatrics suggests screen time may be connected to something many parents do not think about: sensory processing. Researchers Karen Heffler and colleagues studied 1,471 children from the National Children's Study. They looked at television and video exposure at 12, 18, and 24 months, and then measured sensory processing when the children were around 33 months old using the infant toddler sensory profile. The study found that early screen exposure was associated with higher odds of atypical sensory patterns, including low registration, sensation seeking, sensory sensitivity, and sensation avoiding. For example, screen exposure at 12 months was linked with about double the odds of high-low registration behavior, while more screen exposure at 24 months was linked with higher odds of high sensation seeking, sensory sensitivity, and sensation avoiding. The researchers were clear that this does not prove screen time causes sensory issues, but it does suggest that screen exposure may be connected to sensory-related behavior in ways parents do not always recognize. That is why the better question is not only, how many minutes did my child watch? A more useful question is, what happens to my child after the screen turns off? That is the main idea of this video. Watch the after effect. This matters because sensory behavior is easy to misread. A toddler who screams during hair washing may look stubborn, but they may be overwhelmed by touch and sound. A child who refuses socks may look controlling, but the seam or pressure may genuinely feel unbearable to them. A child who runs into the couch, spins, jumps, or crashes after videos may look wild, but their body may be searching for stronger input after fast visual stimulation. Another child may react in the opposite way and become more sensitive, more avoidant, more irritable, or less able to handle normal transitions. This is not about blaming parents. Most parents use screens for real reasons. They use them to cook dinner, answer a message, survive a long car ride, help with a younger baby, or get through the last hour of the day when everyone is tired. The problem is that screen time is often discussed only as a number, while some children may show the real effect in their body afterward. That after effect can look different from child to child. For one toddler, watching a short calm video may not change much. They turn it off, move into play, and their body seems fine. For another toddler, the same amount of screen time may lead to a harder transition, louder behavior, more crashing, more whining, more sensitivity to touch, or a meltdown over something that usually would not be a big deal. This is why two children in the same family can react completely differently to the same screen rule. The type of screen also matters. A slow video call with a grandparent is not the same as fast autoplay videos with bright colors, quick cuts, loud sounds, and constant novelty. A child watching something with a parent who talks, pauses, and connects is not having the same experience as a child silently watching one video roll into the next. The study looked at television and video exposure, not every possible kind of screen use, so parents should be careful not to flatten all screen time into one category. Still, the pattern is worth paying attention to, because fast digital stimulation can be very different from the sensory input children get from real-world play. The real-world part is important. Young children learn through movement, touch, balance, climbing, carrying, building, pouring, digging, messy play, face-to-face interaction, and ordinary life with real objects. When screen time replaces too much of that, the concern is not only what the screen adds, it is also what the screen pushes out. A toddler's sensory system needs practice with real textures, real sounds, real movement, real frustration, and real transitions. That is why watch the after effect is more useful than simply feeling guilty about screen time. For a few days, pay attention to what happens after your child watches. Do they move into play easily, or do they demand more videos immediately? Do they become calmer, or do they become louder and harder to settle? Are clothing, food textures, sound, touch, or transitions more difficult afterward? Does the problem show up more after fast content than after slower content? Does it happen more when the screen is used before meals, before bed, or during moments when your child was already tired? You are not looking for one perfect rule. You are looking for your child's pattern. If you notice that screens seem to make your child more dysregulated, the first step does not have to be removing every screen overnight. A more realistic first step is changing the screen environment. You can shorten the session, turn off autoplay, choose slower content, avoid screens right before meals or bedtime, or create a predictable ending routine so the child's body has help moving back into real life. That transition can make a big difference. A toddler goes from music, movement, bright colors, quick scene changes, and constant novelty back into a normal room where nothing changes every 2 seconds. For some children, that shift is genuinely hard. Their body may still be expecting stimulation, and real life suddenly feels too slow, too demanding, or too frustrating. Instead of only saying, "Screen time is over," it can help to give the body a bridge back into the room. That bridge might be going outside, carrying a small basket, jumping, pushing a laundry basket, building with blocks, playing with water, or sitting with a parent for a few minutes before moving into the next demand. The point is not to reward screen time. The point is to help the nervous system land. Another helpful shift is adding back sensory-rich play. If your child has had more screen time lately, it may help to increase the kinds of real-world input their body can organize. Climbing, running, dancing, carrying, digging, drawing, playing with dough, pouring water, helping with simple chores, or spending time outside. These activities can look ordinary, but they give young children the kind of body-based experiences that screens cannot replace. This still needs nuance. The study does not prove that screens cause the sensory patterns, and the researchers noted that the relationship may be complicated. It is possible that children with sensory challenges are given more screen time because parents are trying to manage difficult behavior. It is also possible that higher screen exposure contributes to later sensory-related behaviors, or that both things influence each other. That is why the honest message is not, "Screens caused your child's sensory issues." The honest message is, if your child struggles with sensory behavior, screen patterns are worth looking at. That is a more useful and more fair way to think about it. Parents should also know when to get extra support. If a child is constantly distressed by clothing, food textures, sound, touch, transitions, sleep, daily routines, or if sensory issues are making normal family life very difficult, it is worth speaking with a pediatrician, occupational therapist, or developmental specialist. Screen changes can be one part of the picture, but they are not a replacement for proper support when a child is really struggling. So the main question is not, are screens bad? The better question is, what does screen time seem to do to my child's body and behavior? That question gives you something practical to observe. It helps you move away from guilt and toward pattern recognition. You might discover that your child is fine with a short video earlier in the day, but falls apart after screens at night. You might notice that fast videos create more chaos than slow ones. You might notice that screens before meals make food textures harder, or that screens before getting dressed make clothing battles worse. You might also discover that your child handles certain kinds of screen use perfectly well. That is why watching the after effect matters. If you have noticed this in your own home, write in the comments what changes most after your child watches videos. Do they get louder, more hyper, more clingy, more sensitive to clothes, food, sound, or transitions, or do they seem completely fine? That kind of comment is useful because other parents are trying to understand the same patterns in their own children. And if you want more research-based parenting videos that go beyond simple guilt and explain what may be happening underneath toddler behavior, subscribe, because parents need better answers than just do less screen time. The main thing to remember is this: screen time is not only about minutes. It is about what kind of stimulation your child is getting, what real-world experiences it may be replacing, and what happens to your toddler's body after the screen turns off.